FromSoft DLCs have always pushed the things from base game and improved upon it, or take it a step further. With Dark Souls 1's DLC, it felt like more of just the strong things about Dark Souls 1. Bloodborne's base game bosses, not gonna lie, I thought they were cheeks, and that probably already made the dislike ratio go up a little bit, but you cannot deny the fact that Old Hunters was a massive improvement on the base game, no matter how much you love Bloodborne. The greatest things in Bloodborne are in that DLC. You got Ludwig, Lady Maria? I don't know. Orphan. And hell, bro, I would even say Living Failures. Dark Souls 3 Ashes of Aria, that DLC kind of sucked. Freed was an amazing boss, but that DLC was weak. But we got Ring City, which is possibly the best DLC From Software has ever made, and the best Souls any Souls game has ever gotten. Ring City was the culmination of a whole franchise, and the finale cannot be redone. You can't redo Ring City. You'll notice I haven't mentioned any Dark Souls 2 DLCs, and honestly, I haven't played any Dark Souls 2 DLCs. I am actually an enjoyer of Dark Souls 2, and maybe I will hate the Dark Souls 2 DLCs. I don't know, and maybe I'm wrong about this whole thing, and you know, Dark Souls 2 DLCs are the exception to what I'm saying, and they are absolutely horseshit. I don't know. I haven't played them, so. But with Elden Ring, it was my first Souls game, so I had a massive bias towards Elden Ring. Elden Ring was my favorite game of all time for a year. I've put hundreds of hours into that game. I'm sure this isn't anything new, because I'm sure a lot of you felt the same way about the game. Until he showed up. The way Shadow of the Erdtree is, it feels like even From Software is losing touch with their formula. It feels like they're losing themselves. And endgame Elden Ring kind of already showed its cracks. I feel like the mechanics of the traditional Souls-like gameplay was already being stretched a little thin. Take a look at Malenia. When everyone was talking about Malenia, when she was the talk of the town, right? People said it felt like they just took the sliders and they put it to 100. It felt like they just made a hard boss to make a hard boss. Don't forget that. People said that about Malenia. Sure, I do think Malenia is a great boss. I put her in like A tier, like top of A. But let's not forget that people thought she was a little too much, right? But you can tell they were pushing it a little bit with how far the classic gameplay could go. And with Shadow of the Erdtree, holy fuck, they pushed it even farther. But I might just be complaining over objectively the best DLC you'll ever lay your eyes upon. That is a real comment I received. I am not even joking. That is a real comment I received. Now, why do I think Shadow of the Erdtree is the end? Ooh, nice voice crack. Let's start with the easy stuff. Scatter tree fragments. Oh boy, the scatter tree fragments. A new level up system, which is kind of pointless. The worst part is, blessing level 12 is basically all you need. The thing is, I can understand if they were all on the main path, but that's not the case. A lot of the scatter tree fragments are placed in just absolute stupid places that you'd never think to go. I get it. It's an open world game. You're supposed to explore. I get that. All right. But when you have your main mechanic, the foundation of your DLC, you are forced to either explore literally every nook and cranny or look up a guide. Maybe the mechanic isn't well thought out enough. Now, let me take a moment to just remind you of the classic progression system in these games. You are faced with an unimaginable challenge. You think the challenge is impossible to overcome, and through time you start to realize, wait, it's not that bad, and you start to learn and you overcome, and then you get rewarded for that feeling of overcoming. Plus, you had a lot of souls to level up and get stronger, and it's just this dopamine rush of just doing something and getting a good outcome for it. So, the progression system in Shadow of the Erdtree is different than that. If you see a boss in the overworld, you might not even get one level. Let's not forget, but when the DLC was coming out, it was stated that it doesn't matter if you're over leveled or anything. The scatter tree fragments make it to where you won't be. So the problem is the classic progression system of getting souls for overcoming a challenge, aka a boss, is ruined because of a new level up system that tried to compensate for the people who have gone through the game multiple times in New Game Plus and whatever, when it could have just been as simple as how it used to be, where you either beat the game and go straight to the DLC, or you play the DLC a little bit before you beat the game, and it is scaled to that point in the game. I don't know why they decided to change that, and maybe I'm crazy, right? Maybe, you know, everyone loves going and getting 50 scatter tree fragments every playthrough, and maybe looking up a guide is totally fine for people. It's stupid because it is the main progression system in the DLC. And this is perfectly transitioned into my next point. Oh my gosh, the exploration. It's a sandbox. It's supposed to be empty and open and whatever. Brother, Cerulean Coast probably is the worst location in terms of necessity and relevance to your playthrough. Cerulean Coast, I went there. Most beautiful looking place in any game I've ever played. Oh my gosh, this place is amazing. But what is there to do here? There is a reskinned dragon boss who drops a smithing stone 8 and his heart, which you don't even need him to get the incantation from him, which is stupid. There's grave gloveworts, and it leads to a new location with a remembrance boss, which I said this before and I'll say it again. If area A is empty and area A leads to area B being awesome does not justify area A being absolutely pointless. Sure, area A led to area B, but you could have just cut out the middleman and led to area B in the first place. You could have made area B area A, or at least make area A worth it. Another problem, Frenzy Flame Forest, or whatever it's called. When you step foot in there, you're not allowed to use torrent, right? That's cool. That's a cool concept. I think that's really cool. It's supposed to be like some stealth horror-ish kind of linear area. No. No, because not only are you able to parry those stupid things that are, which their whole thing was you need to run away and not let them see you, you can parry them, but also there's a scatter tree fragment on a side path in the place you can't use torrent on. What the fuck? I think the Frenzy Flame Forest would have been perfect if they just made it more of a linear place. Because, I mean, come on, you have the perfect foundations for it. You have this enemy that you have to sneak around, you can't use torrent, so why make it that same open world level design? You could have just narrowed it down and it would have been perfect. But no, it's a sandbox and it's open world and you have to explore. Usually when you're exploring, you can use torrent. So it feels like they wanted you to treat it as a linear area. That's what it felt like they were telling you when you couldn't use torrent. But no! Have fun missing a scatter tree fragment because you didn't go to this stupid side path. It could have been perfect because it also leads to a really good boss. Midra is a great boss. And speaking of Midra being a good boss, now my biggest problem with this DLC. All the things that I've mentioned could be excused if the bosses were, you know, at least great. It's not the case. Now, Bale and Rolana, they're great. They are really, really good bosses, and I feel like, you know, they knew what they were doing when they were making those bosses. Midra, I think, is a little overrated. I don't see it as, like, one of the best. I think he's, like, high B. That's not to, like, you know, attack anyone or say that, you know, you can't think he's the best, because I guess I have to say that. But me personally, I mean, I don't think there's anything too amazing about him, because not only that, his weapon and spell kind of suck, though, kind of just you know, but I do think the fight itself is pretty fun. Yeah, I got nothing really bad to say about it, but it doesn't really blow me away or anything. I will say, I didn't fight the finger fuck or that flower thing, so I won't use them as points in this video. I will say though, they are ugly as hell. But the first boss you will likely come across in the DLC is Dancing Lion. And at first, I thought he was a pretty great fight, but after like 5 playthroughs, it felt like more of a chore fighting him, because the camera is absolutely abysmal in that fight. Half the difficulty is fighting the camera itself. When he does that like stand attack, like where he stands up and he blows the element. Brother, I don't know what to do there. He's a cool idea, but he just feels annoying to deal with. And the worst part is he's optional. You don't have to fight him. So it just kind of ruins the whole motivation to fight him. I don't have to. It's annoying to. Why would I? So he's kind of just benched. He's kind of just that boss to put on the bench. Like, maybe I'll fight him, maybe not. Mesmer, though, I think he is an S-tier fight, and do I think he's the best? No, but I think he is well deserving of an S-tier title, you know? Mesmer is very well designed. But I was upset to learn he wasn't the final boss of the DLC. You know, I get it. He was on the cover. He was the poster boy, and usually that's not gonna be the final boss. I get that. They would not, like, market the final boss. But he had so much importance in the story. He had so much importance in the world, and he just kind of felt like a side hoe. He would have been a perfect finale, in my opinion. Especially the fact that, you know, America's his mother, and, oh, he's ripping out the eye, and whatever, you know? It would have been awesome. It would have been crazy. But no, because right after Mesmer, you fight Romina. Oh, Romina. Oh, what a shit boss. Now, I've gone through this boss taking me on a roller coaster of emotions. At first, I thought she was stupid, and I thought she looked like the Dark Souls 2 boss, and people called me crazy. People called me crazy about that. But it's not It's not creative for one. She's a pink centipede, scorpion, half woman, half bug thing. We've seen that 2 times before, and she has butterflies. Wow, she has butterflies. But that's a subjective opinion right there. You know, that's just me not liking how the boss looks and the idea. Her actual gameplay, design, and mechanics and moveset is so poorly designed. I did a run where I had to use a +0 weapon and no blessings, so it forced me to learn every single move she has, and her hitboxes and some of her hits are just bullshit, and her face transition has no tell, and she can do it multiple times, so if you're close to her while she does it, you're more than likely gonna get hit by it. It's not impossible, but it's really annoying to deal with because it happens when you least expect it, and it's not like waterfowl where like you have time to like, you know, react to it and, you know, put yourself in a position that you can dodge it. It's just basically instant, and it's just so annoying. It's not good. And then it only gets worse with hitboxes. Oh, we want to talk about hitboxes? Hey, Gaius, that attack where he dashes you, you know that one. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Most inconsistent attack ever. Sometimes you dodge it, sometimes you don't. No one knows why. You just get mad about it and you move on. Gaius is actually Dark Souls 2 level. I like Dark Souls 2, but I can admit Dark Souls 2 most of Dark Souls 2 bosses are shit. They are bottom of barrel shit. They are shit on the bottom of my shoe. Gaius belongs in there. Alright? I don't think that's a controversial opinion at all either. Which, by the way, I just want to point out, I just remembered this. Gaius' theme isn't even Gaius' theme. It's a theme that's used in base game all the time. It's not, he doesn't even get his unique theme. What the fuck? I'm getting a little carried away here. Point is, we have some amazing bosses, some good bosses, and some really, really bad bosses. But hey, you know, maybe it can all be tied with a nice bow for the final bot. No. To begin, really? Radahn again? That's where we're at? Dark Souls 1. You had Father of the Abyss, Bloodborne, Orphan of Kos, Dark Souls 3, Gale, and then the finale of all things Elden Ring, as far as we know, is Radahn again. Now, you can sit there and say, oh, but the lore reasons, oh, it's Mog and blah, 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 blah. So, you think the average player is going to care about the lore reason why we're here? Do you really think that? Do you really think the majority really care about the lore reasons why we're fighting Radahn again? And if I'm wrong, and majority do care, why should that excuse poor gameplay? At the end of the day, this game is for gameplay. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun to play, not fun to learn about the story, which is definitely, don't get me wrong, the story is a very amazing thing usually in these games, and it's very fun to learn about it, and really good story, and a lot of great characters, don't get me wrong. But sacrificing the fundamental of the game, which is the gameplay, for the sake of lore, isn't a good idea. Not only that, but the lore in this DLC isn't really that good. And I think a lot of people can agree with me on that. It doesn't feel fully fleshed out. It still leaves us with a lot of questions. And it just felt like, it didn't feel like a proper ending to this DLC. And I feel like that can be applied to everything in this DLC. Nothing feels fully fleshed out. Nothing feels the level design, the world itself, the bosses, the mechanics, the gameplay. It all feels like it doesn't have its own standing, like it can't stand strong on its own. And the thing is with Radahn, its first phase is nearly perfect. There's nearly nothing wrong with that fight, and then the triple slash attack has to go and ruin it. It is such a dumb attack, because not only is it very, very tricky to dodge. Like, you have to be very specific with your timings, but you also need to be at a very specific placement in the boss, which it forces you to constantly move around Radahn, which doesn't pair well because Radahn is always trying to face you. So you're constantly trying to, you know, go to his side while he's constantly trying to look at you and face you, right? It just doesn't work well with that attack. If that attack wasn't in phase 1 wouldn't be a problem, but it's just a constant battle of making sure you're at his left side, so when he does the X slash attack, you can dodge it. I'm pretty sure you can dodge it in front of him, but it is way easier to dodge it on his side than it is in front of him. And then phase 2, not only is it awful to look at, it's another phase where the phase 2 is kind of phase 1, but with a bunch of AoE. Brother, look, Abyss Watchers, he was cool, you know? He added AoE to his weapon, that was cool. But you done it too many times, man. Even in this DLC, Rolana, Midra, hell, Gaius, they add AoE to their attacks in phase 2. Like, I get why, but it's a lazy idea to keep doing over and over and over, because you can't think of a more creative phase 2 than just adding AoE. And yes, there's more movesets in phase 2, but they're bullshit.
they're absolute bullshit.
Like the clone attacks? Oh my gosh, what the fuck? In my opinion, Radahn shows the limits of this gameplay. It shows the limits of the traditional Dark Souls gameplay. We've reached it. There's not much we can go here, because in this DLC, it proved that their boss design philosophy is to just crank the sliders to the max and see how far they can get away with just making the boss just insane. They're not thinking about a clever move set or a clever obstacle or challenge of the boss or a switch up in the phase 2 to make you think. It is just, how can we make it as overbearing as possible, and how aggressive can we make this boss, or how overwhelming can we make this boss? It's not clever anymore. So this is what I mean by, I feel like Shadow of the Erdtree is the end. I feel like there is not much we can do from here. There's not much where we can go from here, unless I'm wrong, and you know, Elden Ring 2 comes out or something, and they make some of the best designed bosses ever, and I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong, but I guess we'll have to see, right? We'll have to see what game they cook next. But I feel like if we don't make changes to the gameplay, then these games are going to slowly just become stupid. It happens to every single game. Like Breath of the Wild caused open worlds to be a thing. Now every game does open worlds, and some do it well, some don't. Now Elden Ring has caused the dodge roll to be that thing that needs to be in the game, or else it's not a good game. And it just causes the same feeling. And it's harder to get creative when you do the same thing over and over and over and over. So I feel like if we don't find something to change what we already have, to improve on it, then we're gonna get nowhere, and we're gonna be at the same problem next time, and it's probably only gonna get worse. And my closing statement here is, if you agreed with anything that I said and you still call this DLC 10 out of 10, brother, you're just a me writer. I'm sorry, you're a FromSoft me writer. Am I telling you that you can't be? No, you can do whatever you want, but just know, you agreeing with that there are flaws in this DLC and you call it a 10 out of 10, that doesn't make any sense. The reason why I wanted to make this whole video is because I made a Shadow of the Erdtree video before when it first came out, and I didn't really care to make it a critique video, and people got mad at me for that and said that I would get less hate if I made it a critique video. And you know, I wanted to test it out. You know, I had a lot of things that I wanted to say about this DLC and get off my chest, and I don't know, maybe someone will care about this, and maybe, you know, someone will realize that From Software can't go down this road they're going down, you know. But I've been gone for a while. I took a long break off of YouTube, so I'm back. It's good to be back, baby. I might come back and immediately get canceled because this video is super controversial. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I got a lot of things planned. So if you want to stick around and see that, you know what button to press. I don't gotta tell you. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.